Hello everyone, this is the IFC Architect, and I can't believe it's been 2 months, but welcome to the second stable release update video. Today we're going to be going through BlenderBim 23.05.06, which is the latest stable release. BlenderBim is on a 2-month stable release cycle now, and yeah, I'm going to be covering those. Just an FYI, I do use the latest release, which gets updated daily in the tutorial videos, but I thought I should make these videos so people can see batched marks of improvement, and there have been a lot of improvements. So let's get into it. Today I've just got the page open here, and you can see we've got BlenderBim 23.05.06, 6th of May update. It's been released with 534 new features and fixes. It's our built environment and helps support the BlenderBim add-on. It's 100% free and open source that lets you author and document BIM data fully to ISO standards. It's very brilliant. So you can get it here at the BlenderBim website. Again, if you haven't seen it, this is what the refresh looks like. It's been a while now. And if you want to donate, you can see the amount that's been donated up there. But if we scroll down a tiny bit, I think, oh, no, not here. There's no donate button on this page. But you can see here, it's got the get 23.05.06 button here, so you can click there, or you can go to downloads, and you can get the one that's appropriate for your operating system. So there's Linux, Mac M1, and Windows. There's an installation guide, which you can follow, or any of the videos, and you can also come here and say donate at the bottom if you want to contribute. It's important, and it definitely helps fund a whole bunch of things. You can see the amount of money that's going towards it already. You can do a recurring amount, or you could do a once-off towards a specific project, which is my preferred way of doing it. You can see there's a whole bunch of donors already. Thank you everybody who's contributed so far to the project. Alright, let's jump back into the updates. So, okay, deep breath, get ready, go. It's quite an awesome update. We're starting with an AI image generated image of Dion, the main developer, Dion Malt's little bunny. This is quite a cool one. It was made by IFC Validation using Midjourney. And yeah, we always got to start with the bunny. This is quite a cool image. And let's get into the updates. Okay, drawings and sheets are now portable. Okay, the sheet, drawing, and schedule system has been made fully portable, storing relative paths in IFC document references, and capturing all of the components needed to build sheets in IFC document references. This means it's finally practical to switch between multiple projects on the same computer, or package a project that someone else can open on their computer. Exactly what it says on the can. Before, the drawings, like the actual SVG and the sheet, was saved with your BlenderBim installation. But now it's saved locally with your file. So I've got an IFC file, which is a bit empty, but I've saved it. And we can just add something simple to it, like a drawing. So I'm just going to press N. Let me turn on my screencast keys so you can see what I'm doing. Not that this is a tutorial. We're just going to go to our file. We're going to go to our BIM documentation, and we're going to make a plan at the story. Open it, we're going to activate it, and there it is. I'm probably just going to make it 15. And I'm just going to print that plan. There you can see there's nothing in it. But now that we've printed that plan, and let's make a sheet as well and add the plan to that sheet and print that sheet, which is also empty. If we go to where that file is saved, so over here, you can see it's no longer just got the IFC file. So it's got the IFC file, and it creates a drawings file when we make a drawing, which has assets in it. So this is our CSS, which you know we can edit to adjust the line weights and line types, our markers, patterns, and symbols. And there is also our layouts. So this is the file you would edit in Inkscape to adjust the layouts. And there's also the sheets. So this is our title block, essentially. So it's all stored locally now with the IFC file. It just means that you can no longer just give somebody the IFC file if you want them to open it. You need to grab all of this, and you just need to zip it. So here I'm just going to say add to ifc.rar, ifcdemofile.rar, and the benefit of this is that you can see the IFC file, it's 81 kilobytes, and the zip file is 66 kilobytes, but it has all of this extra information in it. So you can give this to anybody, and it will open the way you have printed it with your line types, your line styles, it makes it very usable. But yeah, so there's nothing in here right now, but that was basically the purpose of this. Yeah, it just makes it much easier to transport different drawings and different drawing standards per project. It's quite good. Then you see this awesome project here, which we're just going to talk about in a second. Note, drawing an IFC model from the Clothing Boutique project by Opening Design, which is a completely open, it's an open source architecture firm based in the US, and it's got a number of members. And they did this Clothing Boutique project, which is a real life project done completely in BlenderBim. Produced with BlenderBim Addon. A huge thank you to the Clothing Boutique project, who helped battle test and report numerous bugs to help stabilize the release cycle. Using it in a real world environment, they managed to come across a lot of issues, and it's been amazing to watch. So if you click on the link here, it will take you to their GitLab page where you can download the file. So you just click on this, and I would just click on the zip file and then just unzip it when you have it. And then you just got to open this Clothing Boutique IFC if you want to check it out. Clothing Boutique, you can see it's 16 megs. It's probably the largest IFC I've ever opened. It takes a few seconds. And then you can see it's not the hugest project in the world, but what it does have is everything categorized correctly and a hell of a lot of information inside of it, except for this door, which is not spatially contained. But if we open up the documentation tab, we've got 13 drawings, and we have a sheet here, which we can recreate, basically. So I'm just going to close that, and I'm just going to say, let's see what's a good one. This floor plan, we're going to click on that, and you can see it activates Viewport annotations. We can see this is a working file that's been made available for people to download, and we can just print it as well. Great drawing. So it's got quite a lot of information here, so it might take a second to actually print it. But just like any other project, it prints, and you can see we've got their exact line weights and line styles, and everything came through and looks identical to their plan view there. We're at a point where this is interoperable, and it's very easy to use. But yeah, let's continue with the developments. But you can play around with that project and just check it out and check out the different details. They did very nice detailing and some very good plan work. All related drawing and sheet assets like title blocks, view templates, CSS, etc. are stored with the project. That's what I've shown you. Renaming or renumbering drawing sheets and schedules is now more practical and flexible. Yes, yeah. So over here, you can just double click and rename the drawing. And when it's a sheet, you can click on the sheet and you just click this little pencil icon, and you can rename the identification and the name. Very simple, very easy and straightforward. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Huge drawing system upgrades. Any kind of metadata can now be stored as a CSS class. Imperial dimension formatting has been improved. This project was done in imperial units, so it's come a long way. Special elements are now drawn on top. So you can tag and color code spaces without skewering elements. You can now bulk print or open drawings and change sheets and title blocks after a sheet has been generated. Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, basically, let's go. So here in the print, you can say create drawing here, or we can say shift. You can see there's a little thing that says shift click. If we say shift click and we click that, I regret that because it's going to take a little while, but essentially it's going to print every single drawing there one at a time. So there's our demolition plan, which you can see isn't nearly as annotated. There's our floor plan, which we printed before. Here's an elevation, a section view, which is not completed. Another section view, which is not completed. Another one. There's one of our details, and there's another one. And then here's another plan view, which I think was just a test view. Block plan, there's another detail. And there's our isometric model view, which is quite nice. Now we can see this is not perfect. Some of our hatch patterns have not come through. But besides that, very good work. But essentially, instead of having to print these individually, now we can print them all in one go. All right. Let's see. Special elements are now drawn on top. You can now bulk print or open drawings and change, etc. Yes. 2 optional engines are now available for semantic projection fills. If you have elements in the background, such as a carpeted floor, coverings that need hash patterns or fills, you can now activate one of these 2 engines, Shapely or SVG fill. So essentially, if there's a background item, it can now have a pattern which we couldn't do before. So I'm actually going to close this, and I'm going to open my old file. So, okay, so if I press 7, and I press N, make sure I'm in the right space, go to the tool, make sure I'm on the BIM tool. Sorry, not a wall, a slab type. So we say Shift A, and we just want to give this a material of some sort. So object properties, collapse everything we don't need. IFC object data, object metadata. We go to our IFC object material. You can see we have a layer set name, a layer set usage. We just go there and just name the layer set. Give it a layer set name. So wherever it says name, that's where you want it. So I'm just going to use brick because it's one of the default materials. We're going to click that, and we're going to activate our drawing. And I'm going to activate and print it. And it didn't work. Oh, the other thing is you need to, in the camera properties here, object data properties, we need to come here to choose one of the engines, either Shapely or SVG Fill. They both do roughly the same thing, but don't select both or you'll crash the Blender. Activate the drawing and create drawing, and then you can see we have a brick pattern in the background. Works quite nicely. Okay, cool. And here we go. Schedules from ODS now supports merge columns, row heights, etc. Essentially it keeps the formatting. So it used to make each one of these rows exactly the same size, no matter the amount of text was in there, and everything was, you couldn't actually put in a table. So if you have an ODS format, like I have a random table here, which just has heading, C1 to 6 and 6 to rand, it's just to demonstrate. And then we take our project here, and we can come down here to schedules. We're just going to click the down arrow. We're going to say add schedule. I'm just going to go to where the schedule is. Let's go here. Test format ODS, add the schedule. So one thing we can do is we can say build schedule. And then you can see it demonstrates it preserving the formatting. And then we can add it to a sheet. So if we go to our sheets, which has a drawing on it, we can also add the schedule there. And we can say create sheets, and we haven't adjusted our formatting, but there is our one drawing, and there is our other, and the formatting is saved, but we haven't done the layout in Inkscape. But yes, that's useful. That's wonderful because you used to have to pull in a PDF of the table if you wanted to include a table in a sheet, and now you don't need to do that. It's brilliant. Section annotations in drawings now support truncated section lines and disabled custom section symbols at either end of the section. That's brilliant. The cut merging tool introduced in the previous release also got a bunch of much needed stability upgrades and now works on more complex projects at a fraction of the time. Performance upgrades all around. It's really good. Viewport Drawing upgrades. This is probably the one thing that's the most visual. There is a new cut decorator that clearly shows the cut lines in the drawings. Drawings now also activate target view specific representations, example door swings in plan view, parametric layered walls, etc. It means significantly more user-friendly drawing work. Essentially, there's a preview, as this image can show you, of what you're going to get before you get there. So if we had to create a very simple project, so I'm going to press tool, we're going to open the wall, use the 200 wall, I'm going to say Shift A, I'm going to say Shift E, Shift A, E, A, E, A, E. You can see this now has a kind of highlights, and I've already adjusted this. And when we go into 3D, we have this preview in 3D where it is being cut of what it will look like. So if I go and select a door type, and I want there to be a door here, and I say Shift A, whoops, I just got to select the door type, sorry, and I say Shift A, then you can see the door has been added, and it's got a cut there. It's really showing it cuts. But if we activate the view over here, go to drawings, and we activate the plan, it's now activated the 2D swing of the door. So we go to 3D, the 3D representation is gone, and the 2D version is there as well. It's quite useful, it's quite good, and it visualizes things very well. So if we add a window, say Shift A, you can see it's already updated to cut through the plane and the frames. It's very cool. We just need to activate that view again, and we can get that 2D representation there. Quite cool, quite cool. And then we can just edit this guy in the background, Shift E to snap there, Shift Q, not quite right. Shift E, snap it to the edges. Shift Q, perfect. Okay, cool. But yeah, that's kind of it. And if we activate the view and then we say create drawing, you can see the background. We still have that pattern on it. And then we have a cut and we have the 2D representations of those both. So what's the next thing? Viewports now take into account include and exclude elements for drawing views, including phases, demolished, construction, etc. So it's quite cool. Essentially, every item here, if we go to our object properties, has in the object property sets, we have a thing called a common P set. So a wall has a wall common, which we can add. And inside of that, it has a whole bunch of status values. So this is your phasing, your new, existing, demolish, etc. So if this is going to be existing and demolish, we can set it like that. And we can select our camera, and it has in its EP set annotation a whole bunch of values. We go down here. You can see this is where the drawings are being referenced. But here there's an include and exclude value. So if we want to include, let's say, everything that is existing, basically, or we want to exclude everything. Well, let's say include everything that's existing. So I'm just pasting in this formula, and it's referencing all of the IFC elements. It's looking at your property sets. It's looking at all the common property sets and the status. So the status we want is existing. And because this activate drawing view is aligned with the what's being shown, we can select it. Well, we just got to click edit there, and it will only select this wall that we've given that preset. So we're going to say activate drawing, and now we only have that wall, essentially. The question is how to get all that back, but that's kind of how it works, and now we can see that that's being previewed. So activate the drawing, we can get out of it, we can say activate model view, and then maybe we select these other walls, and we go down here, and we give them all common presets. And then I'm just going to say existing. So it doesn't save it, but it does add it for everyone, all of them. So it makes all of them existing. So if we activate the drawing again, we're just going to get the walls. And there we go. So we didn't get the door and the window because they aren't existing yet. So we can change that as well. We activate the model view. We can select the window, give it a window common, make it existing as well. We can select the door, give it a door common, make it existing as well. So just the slab now is not included. So if we activate the drawing view, there you can see the window and the door have been included. Quite useful, quite cool. All right. If we go back and we check out the other ones, you can now customize decorator colors using a light theme. Go for it. Yeah, that's kind of what I've done. So you can see here, this has got like a green highlighter value when things are being cut. But if I activate the view, I've got like this pink-ish color. So if we go to edit, preferences, we go to BlenderBim, and you just got to drop down and scroll down to the bottom. You can see you can have, this is the decorations color. This is your annotations color, basically. This is your selected items color, non-selected items, and your spatial elements. So this is kind of, if you want it to be green again, we can select it and it changes to green. If you want it to be pink or blue or whatever, the green works quite well. Yeah. And yeah, it's quite nice, and you can adjust it to whatever you want. So if you're working in light mode, you can make this an orange or a pink or whatever, or a dark color, I mean. Okay, critical bug fixes. They've gone through a lot. Because of that project as well, they've gone through a lot of real life bug fixes. So he's mentioned a few here, including tiny polygon hatch merging for drawing plans, fixed crash when editing decorators, so annotations and that, corruption on undo, also a problem when IFC primitive editing was stored, disappearing openings when splitting walls. I suffered from that a lot. I'm glad it's sorted. Issue where copying objects would unnecessarily copy themselves recursively. Installation error on SvJock will eventually get to SvJock. A bug where 2D elements were sometimes not loaded. UX issues that commonly let users to create objects that unintended contexts. I also had lots of extra contexts all the time. An issue where materials weren't appending, where types were recursively pulled, causing bloat. I haven't suffered from that one, but I'm glad it's sorted. crash with the IFC array tool, big conversation, issue where editing layer thickness accidentally didn't consider the total thickness of the layers, and quantity takeoff calculation now uses project units. So this is quite awesome. So previously, let's say project units, the units were calculated in a standard metric unit, which would normally be meter. So I use millimeters. So things would get a bit messy. But especially if you use imperial units, everything would be calculated in meters and it would throw you off. A number of critical save time synchronization issues were resolved, causing long lag times and unnecessary data changes. Type objects used to incorrectly track placement and were synced at save time. So things are saved progressively instead of all at once at the end. And fix the repeat lost operator for duplicating elements. This is quite useful for the next video, which is quite awesome. And the unlinking bug, which would break other material users in the file. Yeah. Okay. The next thing we're going on to is IfcGit version control integration. So essentially there is a separate add-on called IfcGit, which allows you to use IFC files and version them, upload them, and download them, and have branches and combine them using Git. For anyone who knows GitHub, they know what Git is. But essentially it's a decentralized way to share information online, and it's mainly used for coding. But because IFC is basically a text file, it's possible for it to be used with Git, which let's just read the description. The incredible work by Bruno Possel and Bruno Perdegau, who was one of the people on the on this boutique shop, the clothing boutique, who did the drawing work there, have led to the integration with the IfcGit project. This allows you to track changes on an IFC project, merge changes from multiple users, and jump to points in the project history. So you can do versioning, you can do different kinds of designs, you can load them, you can mix and match. It's really powerful, and it gets rid of a concept of like a central file and all of that. It's very powerful, and it's free, and it's now integrated into Blender. It's a bit complicated to handle in this video, but we'll just read through and then go through, and I will later do a video on how to set it up. You can now manage your BIM data in your local Git repository without leaving the BlenderBim add-on. Instead of just saving a file, you can create revisions with descriptions. The revisions are browsable and retrievable, and changes between two revisions can be visualized in 3D. That's what this kind of purple and green highlighting is. Any revision can be forked, creating a branch for developing options or playing with designs. Exactly. So you can have design versions. Yeah, very exciting. There's an experimental tool to merge branches using an IFC specific 3-way merge for conflict resolution. This already exists, and sometimes you'll have an error. Basically, you gotta play around with it. You gotta find out what it's like. But I'm not going to show it off today. But essentially, there is a new panel in BlenderBim underneath the IFC project. You have a little IfcGit panel, which you can use to create your own repository. And there's a few more steps than that, but that's essentially it. It's quite cool. Okay, yeah. Yes, it's flippin' awesome, and it really it's leading the way for us to make this interoperable with other industries and other professionals, and to coordinate across the world, basically. IFC validation improvements. There's been tons of resolved issues, including 3D coordinates for 2D profiles or orphaned relationships. The validation utility now has a number of fixes to false positives. pset and quantity authoring UI have been modified to prevent the ability to create invalid sets without properties. Invalid IFCs may lead to unpredictable behavior in native IFC tools, or worse, completely incompatible with other IFC software. Essentially, and I do it all the time, you make something that is incorrect and then it just doesn't show up in another IFC viewer. So this is just checking and making sure that we're informed on creating correct geometry that is acceptable for the IFC. Okay, more parametric tools. New parametric railing tool with 2 types of railings, a frameless glass balustrade and a wall-mounted handrail. I can demonstrate that. So if I go here, let's just activate the model view. I'm going to make a railing that wraps around the edge here. So again, we just got to go to tool, go to the BIM tool, and there is no railing type loaded by default, so we're just going to create one. So it is over here, IFC railing type. and I want a balustrade. I want it to be a railing, and type X is fine. So there it automatically adds a type. So I can just press 7 to go from above and snap there, and I can click on the railing type and I can say Shift A. And you can see it adds a railing. Whoops, it added one at the top. I'm just going to bring it down. Not that I need a railing anyway, but there is one problem with this, is that the units just cause a sort of issue when you edit it first time using millimeters, but in meters it should be fine. So I'm going to click this, and I'm just going to say Shift E, which is to edit the path. And you can see it's quite a simple path, so I'm just going to grab both of these and say GX, and maybe like create a little balcony area. So I'm going to say EY, snap it to the edge there. And then we just say Shift Q, and it has worked, but it's just very small, as you can see with my frameless panel here. So these are supposed to be for metric, but for meters, but I use millimeters. So instead of 1 millimeter high, we're just going to say 1,000. And instead of 0.5, we're going to say, instead of 0.05, we're going to say 0.5 and 0.5. And then everything works correctly. Or the spacing probably should be 50. There we go. And yes, the thickness could probably be 50 as well. There we go. So there's our balustrade. And then we just say finish editing, and it works perfectly. And yeah, that's just something that it's currently doing in metric, but it works perfectly good. And then we can do a handrail as well. So we can go here, and I can say I want to make a balustrade that is railing, type X2, and I'm just going to say add, and I'm going to snap there and choose the second type X and say Shift A. And I'm going to change the type by going back to the modifier properties, and we're going to choose not a frameless panel, but a wall-mounted handrail. And I think all of that's good. Yes, okay, cool. It's facing the wrong way, so I'm just going to say rotate Z 180. And I'm just going to say GZ 1000. Okay. And then I'm just going to edit this. I'm going to say Shift E, grab this guy, and I'm going to bring it from the window to the, I'm just going to bring on GX, and then EY to the wall, to the door, window to the door. And then we say Shift Q, and you can see we've got a pretty good rail. So I'm just gonna press 0 so I can see this bad boy. Only problem is the line is on the line, so it just needs a bit of an offset. So I'm just say GY. I think it is just about there. And we're just gonna say GX there, like -80. Yeah, perfect. Cool. And yeah, pretty cool. Pretty easy to use. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next one. Generate spaces now use their object placement as the space recalculation point. When we're generating spaces, parametric sliding doors are now supported. Yes, parametric sliding doors are supported. That's really nice. There's a new UI for generating roofs. Those were in the last update, but there wasn't a UI for it. And you can also set the roof angle for gables and hipped walls now. Okay, let me demonstrate that as well. That one's quite simple. I'm going to press 7. We're going to snap to that corner. Let's turn my snaps back on. Maybe snap there. Or snap to this corner. And we're just going to, again, there's no roof type, so we just need to create it. So grab here. And we're just going to say we want a, select the type first. Roof. And we want a hip gable roof. And we want a roof. Type X is fine. If we choose the roof type and type X and we say add, you can see it's been added. And here we can just adjust it. Grab this, say Shift E, press 2, and snap it to the edges of this thing. Maybe we bring that to there. Okay, cool. And in 3D, you can see there's a preview of what that roof looks like. So I'm just going to say Shift Q and then GZ to bring it to the right height. And then we go to our modifiers and not the IFC rating, but we've got IFC roof modifier. And then we edit this, and I prefer an angle of like 30 degrees. And a hip gable roof works, and that's perfect. And then maybe we want this edge to be a gable end. So we grab this guy, we say Shift E, we select this this edge, and we set gable roof angle, and it does make it. And we say apply, and there it is, working perfectly. Just a bit of an overhang and all that. Okay, cool. And then all of these guys not being spatially contained might be a problem, but it's just for the demonstration the purpose of demonstration, yeah. My story, assign container, sorted. Okay, parametric dimension fields in BIM tools such as extrusion depth, length, X angle are now aware of project units, a simple but significant usability improvement for Imperial users and users of millimeters. So when you click the wall now, it has the actual units that you used. Anywhere that has a metric value when you select it, it's going to have the actual units used. So here you can see it says millimeters. Before it just had the number 3000 and it was like typically whatever the units were, but for Imperial users it was a tiny bit confusing because of the fractions. But yeah, it's working much better now and it makes a lot more sense. This used to mess me up because everything was defaulted to meters and then eventually was fixed, but it's really good to be able to say, I click on this thing and it says millimeters right next to it. Okay, next thing is new join tool, means you can intelligently join objects. Meshes are merged into a single object, whereas solids are joined into multiple solid expressions. Yes, it's been updated and although it's really good. Faux mirroring is now implemented. So you mirror columns, furniture, walls, etc. based on arbitrary axis. Faux mirroring is similar to normal mirroring, except there is no lateral inversion. This means that mirroring preserves the geometry exactly. I haven't exactly gotten this to work. I've gotten the normal mirroring to work, which is quite straightforward actually. You just need, so if we just activate the drawing, you just need an empty or something along those lines to mirror along. So if I add a text object, then it's put over, let's say here, it's going to mirror across the Y axis. So if we wanted to mirror down, we need to say YZ and just rotate it 90. Rotate Z, sorry. And then you can just select the wall and then you need the thing that it's being mirrored against. Make sure you're in the BIM tool and then you can click mirror and it will mirror that object across. I'm not certain exactly how this differs from faux mirroring, but it's good to have things that preserve geometry. That's always good. But yeah, upgrades are good. Improved control over bulk assigning and unassigning aggregates in preparation for elemented wall modeling at later stages of design. Voids and fills may also be added to aggregates so that you have a single opening penetrating multiple coverings, members, and other objects. This is very good for when you have cladding and a wall and different layers, and you need a void, an IFC opening to cut through all of them. Basically, this is what's happening, and it's very cool. And then upgrades to text annotations. They've had a huge upgrade to support multiple text literals. That's where this can become a single tag, communications room with the adjustments and all the different things in it. This means that you can view multi-line text in the viewport as well as have annotation symbols with multiple text components, a space annotation with number, name, area, etc. in drawings. Now text now respects multiple text sizes and box alignment in the viewport. Text may also have a background fill for readability in drawing, so now you can have an opaque background. Improved selector syntax now allows you to escape complex names and regex for now. There is also now support for chain relationships selections and list index selections. So you can select a material of a second layer set, for instance. Yeah, that's very useful. This means you can easily write queries for the filter project phase that filter project phases or common properties like fire ratings across many objects. Incredibly useful. Annotations may also use evaluated Python commands for advanced users to annotate substrings, spherical numerical formatting, or rounding, or more. There are also many built-in symbols that you don't need to create your own for simple tags here. So all of these symbols here are already built in, and maybe this is better demonstrated in the other file. Let me go open that quickly. So here's the file, and we're just going to go into the plan, the floor plan. And you can see it's got quite a few viewport annotations. So I'm just going to hide all these other elements so that I can get access to this. So I'm going to just grab this guy and use him as an example. Press Naught. And you can see he's got 3 lines. So there's a new annotation tool that is underneath the BIM tool, which is basically just this annotation panel given its own form. And we can say Shift-E to edit this text. And you can see it's got a series of literals, which are different lines that are referencing different sets of information. And this information has a height info, it's got the name, the information, so it's referencing information here, and it's got the text alignment. So we can just say OK, and we can just see what that looks like again. So I'm going to activate, and I'm just going to say create drawing. We wait just a second. And then you can see the one we were looking at is this display area. So it's got display area 1, which is the text that's referenced there, 100, which is the room number, and or the space number, and then 442 square foot, which is the quantity. So if we hide these elements again so we can select this guy and say Shift E, you can see there's the name, it's the room name, and it's the quantity of the net floor area in square foot. And that's exactly what we want. But we could look at, let's say, this one, which is tagging the door. So if we go back to our elements, you can see that it's got like a pill shape here. So we can go there, select this guy. And if we want to change the symbol annotation, we can go here, collapse everything we don't need, go to IFC object metadata, go to property sets, and here is a little EP set annotation, and it's got a door tag. And you see they've set their own custom door tag, which is a little pill shape. But they've got different kinds of tags. Some are defaulted, some haven't been changed. So we could change this to a rectangle tag, and we could print that. And you can see it's changed to a rectangle tag, although I think I've messed up the orientation there. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward, and it's matched the same tag as this one. But yeah, if we go back to the upgrades, you can see all of these ones have come through, and they're all very good default tags. Okay, cool. Moving on to the new smart bulk annotation tool. So this uses the new annotation tool. So if we go in here, you can see these have all been annotated. If we check here, this example, basically they've set an annotation and they selected each of the rooms and hit bulk tag there, which saves them quite a bit of time. So if we, let's say, open the other folder, and here we have it, and we just go to our drawing, we could possibly extend these here, make sure we're in the BIM tool. And then we see we have two rooms, so we can just make a new room with the new room authoring tool. Select those and say generate space from walls, and you can see it's added 2 spaces for us. So now what we can do is click the annotation tool and select both of them and say bulk tag, and it'll automatically generate a text image in the center of the room, which is super duper awesome. I think if we click this guy, he'll do the same on a center point for the door. It's quite useful. Yeah. So new annotation tool, focus on making annotation as easy as possible. So you can also preload, like they've done here, a type of annotation that's already referencing existing information, which is quite useful. Annotations may now be typed, so that styles such as classes from the type or representation, such as preset text tags, may be set once at the type level, then bulk applied to all instances. I don't have an example of that, but it's very cool. This is basically what they've done here. When you add a stair arrow, annotations, pre-selected stairs will have arrows automatically added along the stair flight run. You may also bulk select instances and tag them using your own custom annotation type. Yeah, if you happen to have. It's very awesome. A new fall annotation tool allowing you to annotate falls and slope, angles, and grades. So we can do that. If I just go to here and I click on the model tool and we add another plan in my story and I grab that guy, make him 15 or so, and then we just adjust the height of this plan so that it's not cutting there. GZ. Grab it so that we have the roof here. So this new slope tool, well, the fall tool, gives us an accurate slope. So I can just say GY, grab this other one, and I can say GY, and say GZ, so it slopes in the 3D. So you can see we've got 30 degrees, And then we say save, we activate it, and we can say print, great drawing. Just zoom out there. We can see we have a 30-degree slope line. Quite useful. Alrighty. Okay, BGL to GPU migration. Blender is deprecating its BGL library, and that BlenderBim add-on that the BlenderBim add-on uses for drawing viewport decorations. Decorations include profile highlights, live drawing annotations like notes, dimensions, and so on. So your text annotations, your dimensions. A considerable amount of work was done to migrate to the new GPU library, which means that users on the latest Blender versions can still enjoy the decoration features. Unfortunately, work is not yet finished, and some Mac OS users may be missing decorations. This will be resolved in time for the next release. So if you're having this issue, please just report it on the GitHub page so that the devs can understand it in more depth. Okay, new edit mode and non-delayed element deletion. So this is quite useful because there's always been a bit of an issue with the deletion saving. There's a completely new edit mode toggling system. That means if you have a mesh-based representation, like a faceted B-rep or tessellation, your edits are tracked whilst you're in edit mode, and you're given an option to save and discard edits as you toggle edit mode. So you saw that a little bit earlier. In the past, mesh edits were delayed and synchronized at file save, which kind of, if there was an issue at file save, then you kind of lost all of that information, which led to synchronization bugs. This new method helps fix a number of previously obscure bugs. It definitely does. For non-mesh-based representations, mesh editing is disabled unless you have explicitly cast the geometry type to mesh-compatible representation. This prevents people from editing objects in an incompatible manner and allows us to enable representation-specific editing tools such as profile editing for space boundary surfaces. Similarly, element deletion now happens on demand instead of delayed at synchronization events, which is brilliant. This also prevents a lot of obscure potential bugs. Element deletion is now a lot faster, even thousands of times faster for dense mesh-like representations. So if we go back to Blender, and let's say I want to delete this wall, well, I can say delete, and it says IFC delete, and it just takes one more step, so we can delete it. So I'm just going to undo that, and just show you another thing, where it mentioned the fact that it won't let you tab into it. So I'm in object mode now, so if I press tab, and it now has this little error that says only mesh compatible representations may be edited in edit mode. So because a wall has specific definitions, it will only allow me to edit it as a wall, basically. We can obviously reclassify this as something else and edit it and then save it as a wall, but now it's trying to preserve the fact that it has parametric values associated with a wall, which are the height, length, axis, angle, all that. And then the last one is best explained in 2D mode. So if we go here and we just select this annotation and we tab into that to edit it, and we just grab this this arrow and we tab out, now it always has this little box, this little pop-up box to check if you want to save that element. So instead of saving it when you save the whole file, it's saving it here. So should save. You can actually disregard that edit, or you can keep it and you can say okay. So those are the three things that they spoke about. Okay, cool. Moving on. More ways to author space boundaries. They've always been, space boundaries are ways of representing boundaries between spaces for energy analysis. Previously, features were able to load, create, and edit boundaries, and they were pretty clunky. Now there's an easy way to create new untyped space, bulk generate spaces from walls, and toggle boundaries on and off for selected spaces. So I did demonstrate that a little bit earlier. So if I activate this, big plan, you can see there's a space, these two spaces that we created earlier. Essentially, I can delete this one to show you again. So if we just select these walls, then it knows that they are boundaries. We just go to the BlenderBim tab, and we can just say generate space from walls, and it will fill it in automatically. And it's quite useful. Space boundaries can now be easily selected and automatically generated. Yep. Generation intelligently takes into account walls, openings, and fills like doors and windows, automatically creating inner boundaries for these objects correctly projected onto the plane of the boundary. New boundary profile editing tool makes it easier to edit inner and outer boundaries as profiles similar to how you edit slab profiles, and now support filleted arcs and circles as well. All very good. Improved resource management tools. Resources are used in the domain of scheduling and costing. There are now features to review and edit resource productivity data on the fly, and add number of resources and add number of resources used directly from a resource tree. These two features now make it a lot faster to parametrically calculate a resource's required work based on its productivity and parametrically schedule the duration of the task based on the number of resources. I'm going to be getting into this into a video, but these tools have come a long way and I've used them on and off, but they are a hell of a lot easier to use and they are very stable, which makes it very nice. And cost management. You can now select unassigned cost schedule projects, find out what's left to schedule. Very useful. Conveniently show total elements, tasks, resources assigned to a cost item, enable displaying nested elements for cost items, elements, resources, tasks. The UI for adding cost items has been improved. It has been dramatically. It's a hell of a lot clearer. You can now clear all assignments assigned to a cost item. The new ability to change cost item parent in a tree and reorder cost items in a tree just makes it more flexible. Gantt charts and baselines for construction scheduling, also used it on and off. It's getting to a point where it's very useful. Create and view work schedule baselines. You can compare baselines versus planned with Gantt charts. You can now conveniently print Gantt charts in different sheet formats. Add support for multiple languages for Gantt chart headers. Enable displaying task tooltip when hovering over tasks in the Gantt chart. Add resource columns in Gantt chart. Improvements in the Gantt chart page style layout. It looks much better. It's a hell of a lot easier to read. Improved work UX, work schedule UX. Implement human readable durations in task tree. Edit durations with human readable durations. Select individual task inputs and task outputs directly from task quantity assignments. Display nested task resources, task inputs of the active task buttons to select a work schedule, assigned, unassigned products. Basically, all these separate buttons that have descriptions and icons, those have been added. They were all clumped together, and there wasn't really certainty around what they did. So this is a hell of a lot easier to use. It's still a bit clunky, but it's very usable now. New Viewport 4D 5D tools. Show lists of tasks related to current object selection. Highlight tasks related to the current object selection. Side panel menu to retrieve cost items assigned to an object. Highlight cost item related to the current object selection. So much more. Utilities to get connected MEP elements in distribution system is now supported in IFC 4. Upgrades to fix Revit TINs patch for fixing Revit specific issues for loading TINs from Civil 3D. Title block support dynamic angles for north arrows. IFC Array now supports local or global coordinates and getting coordinate offsets from the 3D cursor. New thick line section rendering for temporary sections. Site reference longitude and latitudes can now be edited. Loading IFC proxy now supported. Materials can now be duplicated. Quantity takeoff improvements include the ability to calculate weights based on material densities. Easily see related cost items and quantities of selected items. And at last, a huge thanks to the growing volume of new contributors who are joining the team and changing the industry. You can too. Also, a huge thanks to the growing volume of new donors who have helped raise funds here. Again, if you can, if you're interested, if you're going to use this tool, please donate. It just makes everything way better. Thanks to you, we were able to sponsor development. Many of the features you've just read about would not have been possible to do in this time frame without you. Thank you. And then here's everybody who has been credited for the release. You can see some familiar names here, including Dion, and then donors since the last release. And that's that. It's an awesome update, and I hope everybody enjoys it.